Brothers, sisters, do gods and goddesses exist? The simple answer is yes. And because of the different religions that are prominent nowadays, we find that anyone who believes in different gods and goddesses believes that there are multiple forms of gods, multiple forms of goddesses, that God isn't one, that they are kind of laughed out of the conversation when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to religion. Now, the old gods are coming back, but monotheism, the Jewish religion, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, these forms of understanding have reigned for so long that people believe that even if they're atheist or agnostic, they believe that those who believe in gods and goddesses are lesser than these monotheistic traditions. They imagine that we, who believe in different gods and goddesses, do not understand that there is a unity to everything, and that everything is not separate. But it is because we believe in gods and goddesses that we realize things are not separate. Now, many pagans, many so-called heathens, many so-called polytheists believe that everything is a part of one source. And I believe that. I believe that everything is ultimately a part of one source, and there are varying degrees of power before we reach that one source, before we can analyze that one source. Now, just as everything in nature is divided into different kingdoms and different spheres of influence, whether it be, fish in the water, animals on land, birds in the sky, we have gods that have different realms of influence. There, of course, Thor and Freyr are very close to the earth. Freyr being the fertility of the land, the harvest, the interaction between man and the bountiful exchange the earth gives to us as a result of man's labor. Thor being the storm, very, very detrimental to those who are struck by him, but very beneficial for the rain that it provides. Odin, Allfather, he is the one that is kind of the head of the Northern European gods. And there are many heads of different pantheons, and every single pantheon controls a slightly different cosmic order, cosmic relationship to everything in the universe that we consider as completely natural. There is always something behind all these things. Odin is the unifying factor of consciousness and sky. Consciousness related to atmosphere, related to us. Now, just because the gods have different reigns over different natural cycles, that doesn't mean that they don't exist completely in higher realms or in lower realms. Now, it's very hard for many people to understand that current pagans, current heathens, and those who believe in gods and goddesses, many of us, actually realize and actually understand far greater than the average person that the different ideas of dimensions and different planes of existence, different universes, parallel universes even, these are all clustered within Yggdrasil. These are all clustered within the ideas that our Northern European ancestors and everyone's ancestors that had gods and goddesses and spirits conceived a long time ago. Just because they had a different vocabulary doesn't mean that their understanding of the different dimensions and different planes of existence were any less than current scientific theory. Current scientific theory talks about multiverses, different universes that exist around different dimensions. And the understanding of the gods and goddesses, as our ancestors saw them, is no different. They understand it through a different vocabulary. They understood it through a different vocabulary related to the beings that exist there, not necessarily the planes of existence. They had very few details that they could visualize from the visions that were given from these planes of existence of the actual planes, but the beings who exist here, the gods, higher and lower, allowed our ancestors to have visions, struck their minds in a certain way to strike the chord that created spiritual traditions and religions. And eventually our ancient spiritual traditions devolved into monotheistic dogma. Monotheistic dogma, every single monotheistic religion, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and a few others, demand that they be recognized as the only way to understand the cosmos, the only way to understand the different dimensions. Hell, heaven, earth. And they demand that they are the only ones who are correct, and that either there is the last prophet to rely on, or a savior, or the Messiah hasn't come yet. But everyone else is wrong according to them in so-called polytheistic religions that believe in different gods and goddesses and different spirits. We don't demand that only our gods are the correct ones, or only our gods exist. We recognize that every single pantheon, or every single understanding of the vaster cosmos, of the vaster multiverse, has its own relationship to different people, based on how those people relate to the multiverse. And that's okay. It isn't about us being superior. It isn't about the northern gods being superior over the southern gods, African gods, different Asian immortals, Aztec gods. It isn't about superiority for our ancient ancestors. It is about understanding that there are multiple forces comprising all of the influence that we see physically with our senses. And there are vaster realms beyond this realm, which is so materialistic, so limited. Life itself, life force, soul is limited. We realize that there are other dimensions where our soul can spread its wings and can truly exist, even next to the gods, to the spirits. Now, when we look at ourselves, we have to understand that all of our ancestors believe certain things, and those beliefs culminated into who we are, down to our very DNA. That doesn't mean we have to follow the gods of our ancestors. That just means that we have connection, spiritual connection to our ancestors, and those ancestors had certain beliefs that created a vibration down to the very DNA, their consciousness, touched the very DNA within their blood that transferred to us. The very DNA in the reproductive organs. That understanding transferred to us. And to deny it, to imagine that 2,000 years ago is when, the best religion ever started, and soon the Messiah of that religion will come back and cleanse the earth. That is to deny our ancestors. That is to deny the fact that there is far more complication to the grander scheme of things than the simplistic things that could be put in one book. Now, religion itself, the idea that there is one religion, one way of looking at the universe, the multiverse, and there is one people that should guide all other people. That is a very new idea. That is an idea layered with dogma. We cannot follow dogma and expect to unite with our fellow man. But the gods and goddesses of all different traditions can unite, because it is an acknowledgement that there is complexity to the cosmos that we can all understand through our different filters, through our different levels of understanding, and still reach a point where we can commune with each other. We can join together and realize that everyone has their own piece, and that's okay. Now, do I believe that Odin and Thor and Freya and Njord, do I believe that they exist as my ancestors believed in their realms, and they literally physically existed like my ancestors believe? I would say 50%, because a lot of what our ancestors believed is layered in metaphor, because those were the visions given to them. Very much layered in metaphor. That doesn't mean that I don't believe Odin and Thor exist. That just means that I don't think that our ancestors knew exactly how they existed. They had to understand through visions, because it couldn't be explained to them from these beings that exist in different dimensions. So I think that they 50% understood, and it is up to us to understand the gods completely, to take up where they left off. So hey, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been a good explanation about the idea, do gods and goddesses exist? I hope that I covered this, to an adequate level of understanding. But please, if you have any questions, if you have any disagreements, put it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up down there. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I hope all of you stay in touch with the gods and goddesses.